And we're back. Are we back?
Hello.
I'm back.
Alright. So, once again, speaker was stalled. It wasn't responding. And so we had to restart it. Don't worry, I do know how to paste the two shows together. Anyway, I was going so smoothly until now. So let me post it in the chat room for people to come in. Especially people don't understand. Hang on a minute. Anyway, so we were having a discussion about Spider in a metal band. So go
Yes.
from there as I recuperate from what just happened.
Before I get back into that, I'm going to repost my glorious metal picture back into the new chat room, just so it's going to greet everyone that jumps in and maybe frighten them all away. But yeah, so now I got to pick up where exactly I left off, because now I don't even remember.
Well, so Spider was telling us about kicking people out of bands.
Oh, yeah, backstage.
And how
here,
rough that is. And yeah.
Yeah, there's some points that, you get a band together and there's a lot of dynamics to that. And people hear about a lot of the big, huge band feuds, like, of course, Axl Rose and Slash and that kind of thing. And you start thinking that that's, just part of bands that are big, that are getting famous, and people are too big for themselves and that kind of thing. But it happens a lot more often on a local level than you think, and for a lot of different reasons. And
yeah, I mean that's not a phenomenon. That's really what happens. It's just that when a band is big enough, then there's coverage about it. There's people that care. But I mean, the fact that GNR's back on tour, like that's a more amicable breakup, I think, than a lot of bands on a local level have ever had. Like Sean said, it's like it's the same as being in a relationship. Really, it's rough. I think in order to be a successful band, to make good music, you have to open yourself up and be vulnerable. And because of that, when people, disrespect each other or disagree, it really hits a nerve, and it can be kind of a bloody affair. So.
Most of the time, and it's never actually like 100% super smooth, but in most of the times where we've had to, when I was in metal bands before and we've had to ask people to leave, it's usually been relatively amicable. We always try to be like, hey, this is what's going on. Do you want to jam one more time before you go, for no hard feelings? So most of the time people are like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's funny
because we'll never not play. Like, we'll never not play. Yeah, okay. yeah, sure. Let's do that. It's always at first and foremost is playing your acts, getting it done, having some fun.
I can't say that I was ever asked to leave a band, but I was in agreement with a band relatively recently that it just wasn't working out. And so we both kind of agreed that I was going to step out, which was pretty good. It was actually better for them as a whole, for the most part. I was kind of doing vocals and keys in a new band that had started up relatively recently. probably a year or two ago now, I think. They had kind of like a Lovecraft kind of Call of Cthulhu kind of mythos thing going on. So it was really kind of interesting. And they wanted a specific kind of vocal, like a kill switch engaged kind of thing. And
Connecticut band.
yeah, and
my home state. There you go.
And I tried. I definitely tried. It was probably the most demanding vocals I have ever done in my life. But
now, was this like Kill Switch with Jesse or Kill Switch with Howard?
Ooh.
Oh, this is with Howard. So
see, like Jesse's really dynamic, but like Howard has a wider range.
Yeah, and that's what they were looking for. They wanted kind of the really wide vocal range, really wide octaves and things. And just judging by my voice here talking to you and my vocals on the theme song opening the show, I don't have a huge normal range. If I push a little bit in either direction, I can do a little bit of magic, but not for very long. And it was just apparent that, I mean, I just wasn't going to hold out those notes without really getting out of breath afterwards, or really kind of cracking it at the end, or something like that. And so we had a talk about it and a discussion about it, and we were like, it's really not working out. I'm not really working out as far as what you guys want. And they're like, yeah, we didn't want to necessarily say so because you're our friend, but we didn't know what to do. So, and we all just kind of agreed that I needed to kind of move aside. And the guy that they found was an obviously much better pick. Just, I there's no way I can dispute that at all. This guy is currently, the band had to go on hiatus, who knows, possibly indefinitely, because this guy is now touring worldwide with a theater production of Annie.
Right. I remember you telling the story, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And he's an excellent vocalist. Just really can push those vocals out and really just project it as far out as you need him to go. Hits great octaves, great range. And so I was going to do keys, and it just looked like, because the keys parts were relatively minimal, it was one of those things where I'd be kind of just hanging out for most of a song, not doing a whole lot, and then my part would kick in. I'd really get to jam out, and then I'd kind of step aside for a minute. So it was just not the kind of thing that I was into at that point in life. And not that I needed to have like a big spotlight and be always playing the whole time, but it's nice to, once you're in a band like that where there's going to be keys, you feel like you want to be a lot more involved. And I was having a hard time writing my own melodies along with that. Plus, not too long after that, the baby was born, and I didn't have any time at all, so it just didn't work out. But, they were a good band. They went pretty far for what they had until their hiatus. And like I said, I can't say for sure that I was ever kicked out of a band, but I was in agreement that I needed to leave. So
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah,
situations.
I don't think I've ever been kicked out either, but it was it was always amicable, and it was when I was in that one band and they were taking a different direction. This is when I was very young. They were taking a different direction, and I had been asked to join another band that was already a little more established, and and they were efficient, and they had rehearsal times that started at one time and ended at another, which was amazing. And we weren't playing covers. We were playing the band I ended up with. We were playing with like really big national and international acts, and the other band was covering the bands that we were playing with. And I kept saying, it's like, if you want to be a player, you can't cover the bands that you want to play with. You have to play what you play just as well. And so it was like rehearsals were on Sundays for both bands, and when the first band didn't call a rehearsal, I just didn't go. And I went to the other place, and because they said, okay, we're going to rehearse from whatever it was, from 3 to 5 or 3 to 6, whatever. And so it just one day I woke up and realized that I wasn't in that other band anymore.
See, that's kind of how it was with that deathcore band I was in. I showed up to practice one day, and they literally told me, like, just get out. Okay. All right, I'm going to get my shit and go. I'll see you guys around. I don't talk to anyone but the old lead singer for that band anymore.
I got a question for all three of you guys. I know a lot of bands that or members of bands are in like 3 or 4 different bands, including their main one, but they all do other projects with other bands. So do you guys do that, or have you guys done that in the past? And how do you feel about band members can do that?
I think that second question is actually more interesting than the first. I do not do any side projects, although being with Serial Obsession, I've done a couple of solo acoustic gigs. But they were my friend. Well, you guys met Brian, my friend Brian, on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
His little brother is one of the best songwriters on the planet, and we went to school together, and we're very good friends. And when he was on tour and came through New York, he asked me, do you want to open? And I said sure, and I took about a month and put together a little acoustic set that was a lot of originals and some covers, just stuff I thought that would be kind of good for the set. But it never really deterred. And in fact, when our original guitarist was still with us, my friend had a book release, and a bunch of musicians played because he worked at a bar where a bunch of musicians would hang out in the Village in New York, and so people got up and they read these excerpts from this book, and then somebody would play. So we were one of those. It was just two of us, but that was, in that respect, we were like representing the band more than having a side project. I have a lot of friends that I would like to work with and do some other things with, but it's kind of all about how much time I have and what I can afford to give to each thing, and my band is primary, so I've shied away from a lot of those projects.
One of the things that the band that I had joined for the first time, the former Slayer cover band, one of their rules that stayed true for the longest time that they had was no side projects, because a few of them had been in bands before that they had been really passionate about that had kind of splintered because other things became either more important or just took part of the importance, and they were pretty devoted to what they were doing with just their single bands. So with this band, it was a pretty heavy rule: no side projects, nobody's working on something else. We just, this should be your main focus because we need your time, we need your effort, because we're trying to go places. So I was like, all right, that's cool. And of course, later on, not too long before